Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here with you today. I've got some things to share about what happens inside of us when we experience trauma, chaos, and loss. There's a chain reaction that happens that most people aren't aware of, and then not dealing with that chain of reaction causes bigger problems later. So I want to really share what that process is and how to overcome it without blowing up your life worse. So let me first start by talking about when things get crazy, when something happens, some unforeseen event. As people, we just love to have things predictable. I know that tomorrow is going to be just like yesterday, and the day after that, I can count on things being predictable. When something happens in life out of that predictable ordinariness, it causes fear and a lack of sense of control, and things shake inside of us, and we don't like it because we like to have things under what feels like control. So I learned this mostly after my daughter Courtney died, because obviously that shook my life up, and losing somebody that I was sure that tomorrow, the next day, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, she's still going to be here, and to have something happen out of nowhere and losing her that way shook me to my core. And I found the scripture in Hebrews 12:27, I believe it is. I want to read that for you today. It came to my mind, and it showed me so many important things. And that says, it's talking about the children of Israel going to Mount Sinai and the shaking and the mountain. And it says, now this, yet once more, talking about the shaking, indicates the removal of those things that are being shaken as of things that are made, that the things which cannot be shaken may remain. And that was my experience in the trauma and loss of my daughter, was the things that everything was shaken. Everything that I had built and everything that I had built in the Lord, everything was shaking. And the things that I built were shaken to the ground. But the things that I had built with God were shaken, but they remained. Some of those things that couldn't be shaken was the truth that He is good, and the truth that He is with me. I had found those to be true walking through other issues in my life and getting inner healing. I've talked about my dad's suicide and different things in life, so that when Courtney died, the shaking that happened in me was all the things that remained that I had built. And it did shake my sense of being protected. And that's because there was a weak spot from a sense of abandonment that still hadn't been completely healed. So that, did God abandon me? How come He didn't do what I expected? Shaking happened for me. And I know that you all have experienced that. And there's a lot of shaking going on right now. And it takes us down to all the unhealed places inside of us. When the shaking around us happens, that's what happens inside of us, is that shaking, and different people react according to whatever is shakeable and destructible inside of them. Anything left over from childhood will come to the surface in times of shaking. Those things could be, lies that we learn in those situations. We tend to come to conclusions about ourselves and the world around us, and about God and our relationship with people. And any conclusions that we create within ourselves are one of those things that's going to be shaken. And so if we've concluded, I'm abandoned, that was mine, I'm unwanted, I'm unlovable, I'm on my own. When things are bad, it's up to me. I can't count on anybody. These are just some examples of what can be stirred up inside of us when things are shaking around us. And so I used to fear finding those places, going, oh no, what's wrong with me? I'm not who I thought I was. What's going on inside of me? But now I get excited because that's an opportunity for God to bring healing to those places and to bring truth and I want everything that I've built to be shaken flat to the ground, so that what I build with God is made out of titanium. It's unshakable, unbreakable. And then those things can stand anything. Those things will carry me day to day. Those things are the solid places that create a safe space for my heart to rest in, and knowing that He is for me, He is with me, I am His, He is mine, and I'm safe under the shelter of His wings. But if you're trusting in the things that you built, it won't feel like that. When chaos, confusion, hard things, trauma, losses happen, we immediately want to regain control. So we're going to do whatever we need to immediately try to control the situation, control what's happening to us, try to and you'll see that. You see that in the world right now, how when things are shaking and things are unsure, everybody wants to try to control what's going on. That's a natural human reaction, because we're trying to regain a sense of safety and security. And there really is no safety and security, no safe place outside of our connection with God. He's the solid ground. He's the safe place. He's the only stability that we can rest on. The other thing that we'll try to do in situations of craziness is blame. We need someone to blame. Who can we blame? I'm going to blame this person, and oftentimes the blame will end up, God, you are the whatever, fill in the blank. So we're going to find someone to blame, because that's an effort to regain control when things are unpredictable, chaos, crazy, loss, trauma. We're going to try to blame. And unfortunately, when you choose to blame, it's going to lead to a path of separation, because whoever I'm blaming is the enemy. And so I'm going to point myself towards finding a person that I can convict and punish and separate myself from, so that I can find security. And when we do that, we're cutting off, usually what happens in that process is we cut off the people that are most important to us. People like our spouses, our family members, God, and we can even disconnect from ourselves. Oftentimes we'll turn the blame on ourselves and find a way to accuse me. I'm to blame, because I can't control everybody else out there, but I can sure control me. So if I'm the one to blame, then that makes me feel like I have some sense of control in the situation. And I promise you, you don't have control like you think you do, and trying to find control is only going to cause damage to you and those around you. So you have to be willing to lean into, there's really only one being in the universe who has any kind of control, and it isn't you. You have a limited ability to control anything, and that's the place that I had to come to after I lost Courtney. My youngest was 13 when Courtney died, and in a car accident. And so then when she became 15 and a half, she got a driving permit. And then she turned 16, and now she's got a license to drive a car. And don't you know that those fears, that sense of I don't have any control here, what happens if I lose again, all of that was so present. And I knew that if I operated from that place of control over her, that it was going to cause a disconnect between she and I, and it was going to, that disconnect was going to play into the rest of our relationship for the rest of time. So I knew better than to know to control her. But what was I supposed to do with my fear? And so I had a lot of conversations with God about this because I wasn't completely sure I could trust him either. And so what was I supposed to do, putting my precious one behind the wheel of a car with all the potential that could happen to her? I was able to finally get to a place where, God kind of showed me, either you're in control or I'm in control. And you have a limited ability to control anything. And even though you don't trust that I'm controlling things, what I'm controlling, which one of you is more likely to be effective in keeping you safe? And so I had to surrender that need to control in that situation by verbally saying, God, I give you control, and I release control over this situation. And every time she was in a car away from me, I had to lean into him to be comforted and reminded that one of the things is that most people drive cars and don't get into accidents. Most of the things that we fear and fret about don't happen. And he also told me that, every person on the planet is one step away from complete catastrophe. So we don't have any control, but we have safety and security in our relationship with him. And under the shadow of his wings is where we find safety. That's what Scripture tells us. And being separated from God is going to put you at even more risk of things that could happen, because you're stepping out of an umbrella of his protection and you're saying, I know better than you, so I'm going to step out and I'm going to manage things for myself. Thanks so much, but I'm going to take the helm from here, and you're surely going to mess it up because you are fallible and you have your own brokenness and you have the capacity to make mistakes. But God isn't broken, so he isn't going to make mistakes out of his brokenness. So the only safe place is with him, even when you don't understand it. And that's the other thing that happens when we experience chaos, confusion, loss, trauma, is we don't understand, and we have this drive to understand, a need to understand, and once again, that's a need to control. If I could just understand what's going on, then I can control whatever from happening in the future. And there are just some things that we're not going to understand. And to try to think that we can is foolishness. We're going to try to take all the factors of all the universe and every factor and potential. We're going to try to shrink it down to the level of our own understanding so that we can somehow control the world around us. That's just not possible. In trying to do that, we do it all the time, we end up coming to false conclusions based on the limited information that we have. And so church denominations are formed this way. All kinds of groups and sects and divisions happen because of different people interpreting things according to their level of understanding. And so it's like trying to put together a big giant puzzle, and you don't, or here's a better one, Wheel of Fortune. You're trying to put the words together on the screen and you see enough letters on there that you're like, that says this, and you're absolutely positively convinced. But as more information comes forward and more letters are placed on that board, then you realize you really didn't have the word right at all. And that's the same way with life and our situations, is we try to take these few letters and try to formulate what it means, and that isn't what it means at all because we don't have all the information. And so it's really important to resist coming to conclusions, especially conclusions that will separate us from each other, from God, and from within ourselves. those conclusions are often wrapped around the blame thing. So if you hold on to this, I've got to find out who's to blame here, I'm going to come to false conclusions, and those false conclusions are going to cause separation. They're going to isolate me away from the herd, so to speak, where I'm in more danger, and it's going to cause, loneliness, depression, anxiety. If I'm in control, oh my gosh, that's so much to try to be in control. So anxiety obviously is going to be a problem. If you're dealing with anxiety, you might try to check in your own heart or with God and just kind of say, what is the lie that I'm believing that behind this anxiety? Like, what am I trying to control, and what do I need to let go of? And what is between me and God that I can't lean into Him for things that I don't have answers to? Because He has the full puzzle. He has the full Wheel of Fortune word. He knows what the right answers are. And sometimes we're not even able to understand. Like, He can't give us that information because it's too weighty, too heavy for us. And that's where I ended up with Courtney. I couldn't figure out how a millisecond of time put her life at, ended her life. And just trying to find out from God, like, did I not pray for her enough? Did you, were you asleep at the wheel? Were you not paying attention? Were you, talking to God? God, were you somehow... Now remember, my button from the loss of my father was abandonment. So my thoughts were automatically going to, God, how did you abandon me? And my other button was, I'm a failure. I fail. I'm not good enough. So based on those two lies, my thoughts were going to, God, how did you abandon me in this situation? And how could you abandon me? And the other one was, I'm not good enough, so I did something wrong. Those were the two places my thoughts were going, and it was all based on my past woundedness. And that's that shaking, the things that were unhealed in me. This moment of time brought the shaking to those things that I had built around those lies. And one was, if I do everything right, my family is protected. If I'm paying attention spiritually, I'll know when to pray. And bad things will never happen to me because I'm this or that. And so those were things that I built up to. It's up to me. Self-reliance was one of my key coping mechanisms that I was trying to apply in this situation. And when you have something like self-reliance, or I'm in charge, or everything's up to me, then when things go bad, the first person you're going to blame is yourself. So obviously, if I'm in charge and something bad happened, then I'm to blame. Or another coping mechanism might be I'm the victim here, and everybody else is out to get me, and everybody out there has failed me. And so who do I need to find to blame for me being victimized again? And so, like I said, from the past, you're pulling that forward into your present situation and saying, who do I need to blame and who do I need to accuse? And so I can quickly gain control. And that's just a really dangerous place to be, because it's going to bring separation, and it's going to bring division in your own heart. You're going to either become an enemy to yourself, or you're going to become an enemy to other people, or you're going to make them an enemy to you. And so you're going to find yourself really lonely and afraid and fearful, full of depression and anxiety as a result of those things. Excuse me. We will also often project the people that we've experienced in life onto our relationship with God. I've talked about that before. Excuse me, I need a drink. I'm choking on my own saliva here. So we experience people in a negative way, and then we're going to project that onto God. So how did we experience our mother, our father, our siblings, our friends, pastors, teachers? We're going to take what we've learned and how we've experienced them and those false conclusions that we came to, and we're going to project that onto our relationship with God. that example for me was my father abandoned me, so God must abandon too. And so with that being shaken, I had to really press in to find out what the truth was, because that lens made everything that I believed to be true so apparent. And it's like wearing glasses that filter out all the input around you according to what you already believe, to verify. Our brains are built that way. To verify what I already believe to be true, I'm looking for that proof, and you're going to find it. You're going to find it everywhere around you to prove, yep, it's true. I'm abandoned. Nobody shows up for me. Everybody leaves me. And I'm going to be able to find proof after proof after proof after proof, meanwhile building a deeper and deeper and deeper stronghold in my brain to where I don't trust anybody, and I'm trying to build a system around me to keep me safe from being abandoned. So I'm going to control people. I'm going to orbit around them to make sure all their needs are met, so that I can't make any waves. I got to keep everything safe. I can't do anything to make them leave me. And I'm constantly running a program in the background to manage my fear of being abandoned. And so how do you avoid doing that is by going to God and saying, okay, I know I don't have all the answers here. I know I'm seeing through a faulty lens, and I know that I'm looking at a puzzle without all the pieces present. So I'm going to not come to any conclusions right now, especially when life is in turmoil. That's the last possible moment you should be coming to conclusions, is when life is in turmoil, because you will always come to the wrong ones. You have to go to God and say, God, what information is missing from this equation? What is it that I'm not understanding here? What information do you have for me to help me resolve this that I'm going through? And so for me, God was more present than I'd ever experienced him before after I lost Courtney. I could just feel him around me. I could hear his voice so clearly. He pressed into me, showing me that he hadn't abandoned me. It was my preconceived conclusions that were telling me that he had abandoned me. Ultimately, he told me that it would be a burden for him to explain to me what happened with her. And so in order to protect me, he had to withhold information from me, which also wounded me because I wanted to understand it, but he had to risk that pain that I was going to go through with the lack of understanding in order to protect me from a greater thing of too much information. And so as parents, we don't always give our kids all the information for the choices that we make or for the things that they're experiencing. And so I have to trust that I know that he loves me. I know that he loved Courtney. I know that he didn't drop the ball, and I know that he didn't want her to die. So there's other information out there that I'm not aware of to explain this situation. And so the only way for me to remain connected to him is to let go of the need to understand and the need to control it and the need to find blame. And so I just said, God, I surrender that need to blame. I surrender the need to understand, and I surrender the need to control. And I'm going to walk forward without all of the pieces in place for me. And then letting him and his presence and his connection just fill in my heart what I needed in that lack of what I wanted. Does that make sense? And so it's not something that came through my understanding. It was more a spiritual thing, to where his presence met with me in an emotional space and filled in the gaps. You know, like sometimes it's referred to as oil or water or something like that. It's like cracks in your heart that he fills in for you, to where it doesn't feel like it's missing anymore. I hope I'm making sense. If you don't have a relationship with God, then I just want to invite you to just say, God, I want to know you. I want you to reveal yourself to me. I invite you in to my life. I surrender control. I need a connection with you, and I'm tired of being on my own, and I want you. I invite you in, and I accept you. I accept Jesus and all that he did to reconnect me to my Father. And so if you want to know more about that, then please message me. I'd love to talk to you about that. Okay, some other things that are going to separate us from God are, besides projecting the people who have wounded us, projecting our false conclusions onto him, and also projecting false teachings that we've learned from the church. When we do those things, it's showing him in a wrong light. So really need to ask him to show me what is the truth. What do you want me to know, and lay everything else down. Don't be afraid to be messy in front of God. He can handle our messiness. Oftentimes people feel like I need to have it all together before I can come to him. But that's counter to what everything that he's about. Like, we can't do it on our own. That's why Jesus had to come. We absolutely cannot live life on our own. Built into us from the beginning of time is a need for God. And you absolutely cannot do your life on your own and be successful. There's going to be massive gaps, massive emptiness. I don't care how successful or blessed people who don't have a relationship with God look. There's massive gaps and holes that you're not seeing. And so if you want a full and complete life, then you have to have a life that's blended and melded to him. Okay, I think I've said all my piece there, but I just want to conclude with, when chaos and confusion happen, there's going to be a shaking, and everything that can be shaken will be shaken. That's Hebrews 12:27. And the things that cannot be shaken will remain. So the more you build what cannot be shaken with him, the less things that will be shaken to rubble in the future. So I invite him in, and when fears show up, when insecurities show up, when all of that's going on in the shaking, it's bringing those lies to the surface. And it's an invitation for you to find healing. If you can't get that between you and God alone, then go find a counselor, a pastor, a mentor, somebody who can help you get down to those deep issues that are present in the shaking. The lies, the fears, the false conclusions, whatever's going on that this shaking is stirring up from the past needs to be healed. So welcome it, don't run from it, and don't build a stronger stronghold that separates you from yourself, from others, and from God. Anyway, it's good to see you this week. Message me if you have questions or that you need answered, or if you need a private session with me, then I will leave that information in the comments section. So see you next Tuesday at 11. Bye.